The Noah Project, the dark side of a sudden baby boom as seen by remote viewer. As were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark. Matthew 24:37-38. Content warning. The content you're about to read must by its nature remain as speculative. It was given by a remote viewer who is now deceased and who wished to remain anonymous. This post is highly controversial and at its core extremely disturbing. I remind the audience that this is not indicative of all reptilian or gray alien species behavior, but is specific to those who rebelled against the Orion Empire during the Age of Pharaohs and sided with the being now known as Satan, and more formally as Satanael, who himself is a reptilian. A full background is given in the book The Last Harvest by Lucien Mars. The viewpoint in this post is unconfirmed, meaning it will be up to each reader to draw their own conclusion. Neither Lucien Mars nor Damien Dumas are the authors of this revelation. Read at your own risk. The Noah Project, a remote viewer's perspective. The quoted text from the Bible by Jesus in Matthew 24:37-38 is one of the most famous harbingers of things to come prior in the final ending of humanity on earth. Many people, mostly biblical expositors with various and wildly differing opinions, have gone to great lengths over time attempting to decipher the message given by Jesus, as it was in the days of Noah, has been the jumping-off point for seeking signs and similarities from the biblical period in which Jesus lived for the fulfillment of the text. Yet to date, all of these expositors have missed one central fact that explains what Jesus meant to pinpoint: the ark. What was most obvious is what most, if not all, biblical expositors have missed: the fact that Noah built an ark to escape the coming disaster, a flood that would break open the heavens and devastate all life on earth at the time. And as the Bible clearly and correctly states, the first ending of earth as sent by God was by water. The next, as related in the Bible, shall be by fire, which leaves several potential vectors of destruction. But let's not lose sight of the fact that an ark was being built and it was ignored or poo-pooed by the public at large as a pointless and delusional exercise in fear-mongering by Noah at the time. Transhumanism, Satanael, and the real replacement theory. Another factor that occurred to warrant the wrath of God during the days of Noah was transhuman experimentation between species. As stated in Genesis 6:1-2, quote, "When men began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they took to wife such of them as they chose." End quote. The text plainly states that the sons of God, as in plural, meaning those such as Azazel, Satanael, Lucifer, and other sons of the Father, were bastardizing and polluting humanity with their desire to sire transhuman and alien demonic offspring. This mixing of the species God found abhorrent to his divine plan, and so he sent the flood. Sons of God should be capitalized because they can be considered gods in their limited right as firstborn offspring, as Jesus is also, having special powers granted their status, none of which have been revoked. But they are only small g gods, for there is only one perfect being, God the Father. In rebellion, Satanael wished to create his own species over which he would replace God on earth at least. Satanael has never given up on that replacement plan, which was one of the principal reasons God sent Jesus to forewarn and explain the great replacement theory, not by immigrants as postulated by paranoid Trump-supporting Republicans and MAGA fanatics, but by alien demonic DNA. The intended great replacement theory remains Satan's reason for creating an apocalypse on earth and why he seeks to destroy 90% of the population now inhabiting the planet. and he is now using an agenda that is guaranteed to upset readers. Continue at your own risk. Civil War, the movie, is a lie, and here's why. The blockbuster new movie, Civil War, features a dystopian world set in an America at war with itself. As promised by Donald Trump, should he lose the 2024 election. He claims it might be the last election. This is a prophecy he intends to make sure by any and all illegal means possible. In the movie, the President of the United States remains throughout the film barricaded in the White House, protected by Secret Service agents while the Civil War rages. The flaw in the movie's formula is very easy to spot, for the President has access to deep bunker transportation that will whisk him to safety along with other key members of the government in times of emergency, including the rats in black robes that compose the supremely corrupted court that has been stacked with MAGA supporters. And these 9 rats in black robes are also reflective of a prophetic warning given by Sybil when, quote, old Saturn returns to reign, end quote, in the last days. Black robes are reflective of Saturn as his judgeship itself. And what did the rats in black robes do that is so insidious to God? They overturned Roe versus Wade and are seeking every means to promote and pass a national abortion ban. They lied at the outset about their intentions until it was too late. Christians are throwing all their support to this anti-abortion campaign that includes no possibility of acquiring an abortion regardless if the girl or woman is raped or the victim of incest, believing they are promoting God's work. And why are they insisting upon a total abortion ban at the same time that Russia is doing likewise? And why, when they know that illegal immigrants will also be banned from obtaining an abortion, the very target audience of their supposed great replacement theory, in which all white folk are being replaced? Oh no, it's altogether far worse and something far more sinister. Why the sudden legally imposed baby boom? Why, when the Republican billionaire elites of the deep state's well-published objective is to reduce the world's population by 90%, are they suddenly in favor of creating a sudden baby boom by legalizing a national abortion ban, as is Russia? It defies logic, at least on the surface, but the surface is not where the next ark has already been built. In the DUMBs, which stands for the well-known deep underground military bases, which include cities, transportation via maglev bullet trains all across the globe, medical facilities, and here's where our remote viewer steps on stage to describe the main activity that will define the DUMBs, and your last chance to back out from reading any further. A real-life X-Files smoking man. Shortly after the 9/11 tragedy, I, Lucien Mars, happened to be visiting New York City, where I had several private clients who engaged my services in the black arts for various purposes, none of which have any bearing on the story. While there, as I was lunching in Central Park after a visit to my most beloved site in NYC, the Strand bookstore, a man approached me. "May I join you?" he asked while I was enjoying a brisk fall day on the south side of Central Park, seated on a nearby bench enjoying a sandwich. He looked like an elderly lawyer type. Thinking he might know me by a referral from a client, I responded and said, "Sure, a nice day like this is meant to be shared." He smiled and sat down beside me. "Mind if I smoke?" I replied, "No, that's fine." He says, "This habit is killing me, you know. In fact, I probably have less than a year left to live," and looked at me, helplessly resigned to his fate, with a slight shrug of his shoulders in the face of a pleasurable habit. I simply smiled, wondering what he wanted. His hands shook with a slight tremor, and his voice was raspy, but without asking, he told me, "I'm the remote viewer, did you know? Of course not. How could you? I'm not on the government's payroll, or I wouldn't be here speaking with you." And the remote viewers there lie. They lie because either they are stupid or afraid. He took a long drag on the cigarette, and after a pause, continued by saying, "The elite have a plan that aliens know about and are assisting them to set in motion. They plan to depopulate the planet by 90% or more to make way for a new civilization of transhuman slaves. Bioweapons and weather weapons play a key role in their plan. Just prior to the next World War, they'll seemingly reverse their intended goal of depopulation by instituting a nationwide abortion ban. Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, why would they want to depopulate the planet by over 90%, but at the same time ban abortions, knowing it would cause a sudden baby boom by the same undesirables they want to evict from their borders, eh? The Noah Project. At the time, I wasn't particularly interested in a conspiracy theory. After watching the 9/11 tragedy unfold with its own unsolved mystery of who shorted airline stocks and how 2 planes, with amateur pilots, took down 3 buildings, which has never been brought to light for obvious incriminating reasons. Well, they bombed the Twin Towers, he continued, to prevent alien contact that was scheduled a week later by a group known as Verdants. I've been watching them as they've been watching us, and they told me through one of their ambassadors about the labyrinth of underground cities and emergency evacuation centers that had been constructed all across America, along with the empty FEMA camps. So I remotely viewed what's in these underground cities. And what did you think I found? Without waiting for my answer, he muttered, "Nurseries for babies. Factory-sized nurseries meant to house newborn infants. Thousands upon thousands of them. And I saw both reptilians and greys within these nurseries, performing experiments and implanting the newborns who had arrived there. They were sorting these infants into those able to be hybridized and chip-implanted to serve the New World Order and their masters in a transhumanist civilization ruled by the greys, or those to be exported into a mothership and sent to colonies on Mars for exploitation as worker bees. The rest will be given to their reptilian co-workers as, well, food. They call it the Noah Project. It's an underground ark built on the premise that a doomsday fire from above, either from a solar flare or an asteroid posed to strike Earth in 2029 or thereabouts, or with the assistance of a master plan to implement a global nuclear war meant to depopulate the planet and enslave the people who survive. Or all of the above, eh? And Russia will follow suit at the same time. You'll see. Strange bedfellows, eh? I had a sudden loss of appetite at that point. He concluded this mini expose by saying, "A client recommended that I tell you this, and for whatever reason, maybe you'll discover that purpose on your own. Farewell, my friend." And with that, he faded into a crowd of tourists heading south and left. I have since learned that he died of lung cancer less than a year later. Verdant acknowledged the New World Order conspiracy. It wasn't until years later, when these predictions became self-evident, that I recalled the conversation. Meanwhile, an author of 2 books, The Contact Has Begun and The Challenge of Contact by one Philip Kraft, a 25-year veteran editor for the LA Times, who told of a remarkably prophetic rant when the thwarted plans of these Verdants to meet and greet humanity a week after the 9/11 catastrophe occurred and they decided to cancel the contact. Philip Kraft has since died, along with any further information from an ambassador for the Verdants. In the book, The Challenge of Contact, one of the Verdant leaders said the following in anger when asked what the subject of a heated debate aboard the mothership was all about. They used human names for convenience. This leader's name was Martin. Philip asks him, "Well," I asked, fully aware that I was being childish and petulant, "can you at least tell me what they might be discussing in general terms that a person of my limited intellect could grasp?" "Sure," Martin replied without skipping a beat. "Children killing children, a global pandemic of violence against women, corporate greed ravishing the world's resources for their own selfish ends with no regard for the disastrous ecological and environmental legacy they leave for future generations. The airways filled with rancor by men and women, both secular and non-secular, consumed by hate and narrow-mindedness. incivility of massive proportions, skewed values, and a loss of moral direction, apathy and unconcern for the less fortunate, rampant child abuse, the breakdown of the family, cruelty of all sorts, unconscionable terrorists killing and maiming innocent victims, third world nations that don't have the capacity to adequately feed, clothe, shelter, and provide medical care for their citizens, squandering their paltry resources on the development of nuclear weapons, ethnic cleansing, pedophile clerics, the resurgence of religious and ethnic hatreds and massacres, religious zealots who rant against the government but who would establish a theocracy to impose their narrow and tyrannical dogmas upon the populace. The book, The Challenge of Contact, from which this excerpt was taken, was published in 2003. The New Underground World Order. 21 years later, the Verdant leader Martin's predictions and observations are unfolding with neo-fascist Christian nationalism, Project 2025, and the sudden call for a legalized nationwide abortion ban intended to replace the doomsday parents who will be nuclear cannon fodder with dissidents and dissenters sent to the awaiting concentration camps of FEMA for their personal protection. You understand? The USSR now means the United States of Soviet Republicans, who are the deep state. MAGA is the terrorist arm of the deep state, who is being backed by well-meaning but ignorant masses of pseudo-Christians who believe Donald Trump is fighting the deep state. Donald Trump is the deep state in its darkest sense. He is anti-Christian and will turn against Christians just as surely as he turned against his own vice president, Mike Pence, during the January 6th insurrection. Wake up, America, and you can be assured the reason for the Republicans protecting and empowering Vladimir Putin is to promote the one world order of Satan. This is a spiritual battle for planet Earth and nothing less. And consider that the star witness of the Biden impeachment farce was arrested by the FBI for lying on behalf of Russia. MAGA is also infested by Russian agents who plan to sabotage the 2024 election by causing ballot box upheavals and voter intimidation at key cities where Democrats would vote, including Atlanta, Philadelphia, and other key battleground states, as predicted by another remote viewer. They know for a fact that based on the treasonous statements by Donald Trump that the criminals convicted in the January 6th insurrection, whom he calls hostages, will be pardoned. The intention is to make the ballot count inadmissible and send a decision for the next and last American president to the rats in black robes, the supremely corrupt and MAGA-stacked court. And we'll have a replay of Bush versus Gore that will end democracy, escalate the war in Israel into World War III, followed by the Insurrection Act put into effect by Donald J. Trump and the death of democracy. Make America pray again, the elite one world way. Christians will be forced to accept Trump's own Make America Pray Again slogan he fostered with his King Trump God Bless America Bible while blending Christianity into a one-world religion. When Christians object to the betrayal, off to a FEMA camp they'll go for their protection. Meanwhile, in the new underground world order below, infants will be treated as cattle in the Noah's Ark to create another transhumanistic world order. Or they'll be shipped off-world and fed to reptilians here and elsewhere. So all the good intentions of a national abortion ban will bring about a nightmare far worse than any could at the time imagine. A nursery of transhumanized infants implanted and hybridized by Greys for the New World Order. Those intended to reseed the barren Earth will be hybridized on the Grey motherships and transported back to Earth once incubated and interbred. This fulfills one of Sybil's predictions about the end of the world when she states in one of her last prophecies, "Now the last age by Kume Sybil's song has come and gone, and the majestic roll of circling centuries begins anew." A la a new world order of the ages. Justice returns old Saturn's reign, a la the Supreme Court, to overrule elections, with a new breed of men sent down from heaven. This new breed is not a new creation, but a new breeding of man and alien, a transgenetically engineered new breed of man, it is nothing less than man 2.0 as a bioengineered slave to serve the masters. The wrath of God to come. As you might well imagine, God is angrier than he's ever been at both Christians and Satan and Russia and Israel and, well, this ignorant generation of fools called humans. This was also well expressed by the Verdant named Martin when speaking to Kraft, when he said, "Your history has been a bloody one, right from the moment that your ancestors climbed down from the trees and began walking upright. God will put an end and a curse upon Christians and Satan, as stated elsewhere, that I've dubbed the Ezekiel zone, where the remains of Armageddon corpses are cursed to be fed to birds of prey, including these last-day Christian pretenders and Muslims and Jews, all commingled in the death they deserve for offenses against God. And he's already turned almost all of the forces under Satan against him, so that they defected to the devil and emperor of the Siakar Empire, an empire spanning multiple galaxies whose sole purpose is demonic destruction and warfare in behalf of God's wrath upon rebellious planets like Earth, an art they perfected over their millions upon millions of years conquering. Added to their ranks now is none other than every single archdemon except Beelzebub, Iblis, and of course Satan. Along with the defections, all those who made or who are now making pacts with any aside from these remaining holdouts will have their souls sent to the serpent hell of the Siakar Empire. And when Satan is defeated and destroyed, along with Apollyon and any others, their pact-making humans will be likewise enslaved in the serpent pit of the Siakar hell to be tortured for rebellion in ways even Satan couldn't imagine. So what can you do to prevent this? Nothing except support the FBI in arresting domestic terrorists and insist that Biden fund the FBI and its affiliated force to stop domestic terrorism to preserve the integrity of the upcoming 2024 election. Or is it too late? Time will tell, but Armageddon must happen, and the curse upon humanity and Christianity by God is one that is self-inflicted. The road to the upcoming hell is paved with MAGA intentions. All 3 books quoted in this post can be easily obtained on Amazon, including The Last Harvest by Lucien Mars, The Contact Has Begun, and The Challenge of Contact, both by the late Philip H. Kraft. Updates and related podcasts can be viewed at the separate site, thelastharvest.info. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey today. If you enjoyed exploring the enigmatic theories of the Noah Project, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Now, we're curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think ancient stories like Noah's Ark have hidden meanings that apply to our modern world? Could these narratives be more than just tales from the past? Share your theories in the comments below. We're excited to see your insights and look forward to exploring more mysteries together. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and as always, stay inspired.